Sills, the defender of truth, justice, and the national football, and all of the things that go on in football, truth and justice reside here on the National Football Show. Always remember that. We welcome you aboard. I know there's so many options out there, and I can't thank you enough for coming here each and every single day like many of you do. And our show's a little bit different. I'll tell you the way it is, with very little emotion around it when it comes to making comments like I'm going to make here in a minute. Okay? Your guy, Eric Allen, once again being walked over for potential Hall of Fame honors when it comes to going into Canton. Rightfully so, too. Okay, rightfully so. We're getting Jason Cole on here because today the senior committee came out. So Steve McMichael is now a finalist to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame with only 2 Pro Bowls. And there's a guy by the name of Roger Brown who played on the fearsome foursome and played in Detroit, who has 6 and was one of the great defensive tackles during his time. They don't even consider him. But because McMichael is in Chicago and because he's ill, that doesn't make him a Hall of Famer or a sentimental guy when it comes to being a person that should get a gold jacket. Being sick has nothing to do with being a gold jacket guy. Jerome Brown's got more Pro Bowls. Does that make him a Hall of Famer also? You're diminishing the Hall of Fame when you're doing this shit. Steve McMichael's a good football player. But the Hall of Fame is not for good football players. The Hall of Fame is for the elite guys. I mean, end of the day, dude, how is Steve McMichael a finalist to go into the Canton Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame? It just doesn't make sense. Well, he's ill. So what? And I'm talking in the context of voting him in. Him being ill, I know Mongo. I get it. That's a whole different conversation. His illness on whether or not the NFLPA should be taking care of him. You know where I stand with that. Tone and I were just talking about the Players Association. It's the worst union in pro sports in America. He'll take care of them players. But at the end of the day, this is a different conversation about the Hall of Fame. And I'm on those committees. You know I am. I'm on the committees I'm on panels that puts names. I would never put his name in a conversation for the Hall of Fame. I mean, look, and again, no disrespect to his illness, but that has no bearing on this conversation. Has no bearing. Just, it's crazy. By the way, another platform and one of the reasons I got into broadcast, and we're going to get into, hey, we're going to go Eagles and Cowboys here in a second, just so you know. But one thing that I got into broadcasting for back in the day was because of the way the NCAA, the National Communist Association of America, was so unfair, not just to me, but scores of other people. It was one of the major reasons why I thought athletes should be paid. I've been saying athletes should be paid for 30 years. 30 years of my broadcasting career, I was a Pied Piper in that. Now they are being paid, and I'm very thankful they are. You get your own image. You get to make money. The coaches can make $10, $15 million a year. Why can't the players? This is not a communist situation. The players should be able to do whatever. When I sign a scholarship, that doesn't give you right to have my likeness for the rest of my life. Anyway, so the NCAA is still standing on its hill with Reggie Bush because they're more irrelevant they're as relevant right now, the NCAA, as a payphone. And that's a hill you're going to stand on to keep Reggie's record. See what happens with the records. If you keep Reggie Bush out of the record books, he can't go back and get his Heisman. And for whatever reason, the Heisman Trophy people put it on the NCAA. If they clear him, he'll get his Heisman back. That's a hill you're going to stand on. That's a Jim Harbaugh and Reggie Bush are hills you're going to stand on when television networks have destroyed college football and the integrity of the game of college football. That's what you're going to stand on. It shows you how that organization is out of touch. The National Communist Association of America, the best day in this country when it comes to sports is when that thing ends. All right. Enough with my platforms there with that. I hate those people. They never had the kids' best interest, and they never will. And the NFL Players Association, I mean, guaranteed contracts. Dude. Players helping, other players. You would have thought it'd been a big deal. Anyway, all right, let's move on here. So I want to show you something before we get to Cowboys and Eagles here. Okay? Before we get to Cowboys and Eagles, how many people want to see Marcus Mariota replace his backup quarterback on the Philadelphia Eagles? Where's that list? Here it is. How many people want to see Mariota replaced? Mariota's cheeks. Tell me, do you want to see Marcus Mariota not as your backup quarterback? I'm going to make a point to you here. Okay? Hey, James, relative, with whom? McKey is QB2? No, he's not. Depending on the player, if he can run our system, yes. I want to show you something here. Tone, by the way, do you think the Eagles need a new backup quarterback too? So people in here, for the majority, you think the Eagles need a backup. A good backup, right? In case a disaster happens when it comes to Jalen Hurts. In case something goes sideways. I want to show you something here on what the league is right now. And then I'll close it up with my take here on this. Let's start in the AFC on the backup quarterbacks right now listed on the depth charts. The Dolphins. Do you want Mike White? The Bills. Do you want Kyle Allen? These are the number twos listed on the depth charts. Do you want Bailey Zappi? That's the Patriots' backup. Bengals, Trevor Siemian. Steelers, Mitchell Trubisky. Jags, CJ Beathard. Broncos, Jarrett Stidham. Chiefs, Blaine Gabbert. Raiders, Brian Hoyer. Chargers, Easton Stick. Or Stick or Slick. NFC. Giants, Tyrod Taylor, maybe. Bears, PJ Walker. I thought that was a gun. Packers, Sean Clifford. Vikings, Nick Mullins. Saints, Jameis Winston. If you like turnovers, he's your guy. Cards, Colt McCoy. Rams, Brett Rippon. Seattle, Drew Lock. Now, I didn't name all of them, but listen to those names. Who are you replacing Marcus Mariota with? Nick Mullins? Who are you replacing him with? Malik Willis is not being cut. Are you crazy? Vrabel loves that guy. They're not cutting him. Who in their right mind would think that Tennessee's going to cut Malik Willis? They want him to be the starting quarterback there. Not trying to cut him. He's not getting cut. He may be the starter by the second week of the season. These guys, who are you replacing? Hey, okay, I'm up for replacing Marcus Mariota. With who? Some guy that's going to get cut? Isn't Mariota the best option? Because there is no other option. You're not signing Carson Wentz. He's the best option. I'd pull the trigger on Aiden O'Connell. Who? Aiden O'Connell. So he's not even a second-team guy on any depth chart in the NFL. But he's your number 2? So we're going to wait for what? Trade for number 3. You think Aiden O'Connell is a better option than Marcus Mariota? I do not. Malik Cunningham, Belichick likes him. I don't think they're cutting him either. You have no option here. Howie is not going to make a move. They may sign a quarterback to go to the practice squad. They may do that. But you don't have any options here. Greg Ward is not a better option than Marcus Mariota. Is Mariota struggling with the Jalen Hurts offense? Yes. Don't you think any other quarterback that comes into Philadelphia is also going to struggle with the Jalen? This is the Jalen Hurts offense. One guy can run it, not 10. I don't think anybody can run that offense. Honestly, I don't think Patrick Mahomes could run that offense. Patrick Mahomes is not going to carry the ball 200 times in a year. He is not. You would have to change the entire way you approach first and second and third down. If Mahomes couldn't run the Jalen Hurts offense. He could not. He's not going to carry the ball in the RPO 200 times. Somebody do me a favor. Tell me how many times Patrick Mahomes ran the ball last year. I'd be curious to see if that number's even near 100. I'd be curious on how many carries he had last year with really a decent running back, not a great running back. There's not a chance in hell you have a better option. Your number 2 quarterback is Marcus Mariota. How about this? He's just got to play better. Hey, did it not take Jalen Hurts and the entire Eagle coaching staff 2 years pretty much to put that offense in play? The first year, they went through bumps and bruises, 2-5. Then they went to the RPO, and it started to mature. They went 9-8. Then the next year, the thing looked good. What would make you think a guy could walk in and all of a sudden run that thing in 2 weeks or 2 months, and you guys all of a sudden go, well, he's not the guy. Who is the guy? Who is the guy? Gardner Minshew couldn't run it. He's probably considered one of the better substitute teachers out there, too. I would have, we were talking, I would have rather have had Teddy Bridgewater. Jalen had 165 carries. Mahomes had 61 rushes. Think about this right there. That's 165 carries in 14 games, right? 15 games. I know he didn't run a lot the last game either because they didn't want to get him hurt. But he was averaging like 12 or 13 yard rushes like a game. So you add that on to 165, he was near 200 carries. He would have had 200 carries. If Jalen Hurts had played 17 games this year, he'd had 200 carries. You would have had two running backs with 200 carries. Sanders and Hurts. Mahomes ain't going in that offense in Philly and running the ball 200 times. Are you crazy? This guy ran the ball 3 more times than what Mahomes did in Kansas City. There's nobody out there that can run that offense. What quarterback do you feel that's out there right now that could carry the ball 200 times as an average, if you had to, and throw the ball 450? Show me. Mahomes is the guy. You have to come to grips with it. I do believe, look, Tyler McKey doesn't fit that offense. If you put Tyler McKey in that offense, your entire run game's gone. You think the Eagles want to sacrifice the number 2 run game? The last 2 years, the Philadelphia Eagles have been 1 and 2 in rushing. And you want to take that away completely? You don't have the running backs to take over if Hurts. Hurts is your number 1 running back. He is your number 1 running back. Or I should say this, he's your number 1 running back threat. Okay? I don't fear any of the other guys. I fear Hurts on 3rd and long because I can't account for him. Because if I take somebody away from A.J. Brown to cover Hurts, I'm not leaving that guy wide open on jump balls. Absolutely not. Jalen Hurts creates a mismatch. Tyler McKey doesn't. Tyler McKey takes part of your offense away from you. That's why he's not your number 2. He can't be your number 2. Tyler McKey cannot be your number 2. Your entire offense would change, and you would take a major component away the last 2 years. You're rushing. Hey, let's just do this. Let's make Tanner McKey, in case Jalen gets hurt, the number 2 guy. Okay, so if McKey has to go in for 4 games, you go from the number 1, number 2 rushing team in the National Football League the last 2 years to the 32nd. How many games do you think you're winning? None. That guy's not going to throw you into wins. He's not. Shit, coordinators would be grinding their teeth to get a piece of that guy. Kidding me? Hey, let's just take our rushing offense away. I heard people all day talking, yeah, let's just make McKey number 2. Like, that's something. That's not even a starter. I would say this, though, to you. I would want to see Marcus Mariota play the entire first and second half. Or first and second quarter. I want to see him play the first and second quarter. The entire first half, and then give McKey the 3rd and 4th quarter. Let him have that. If you want to put Book's ass in there, I don't know. Whatever. I don't really think he's anything. I never thought he was anything at Notre Dame. But I would want him to get as many reps as I can. So I would want to see Marcus Mariota play the first and second quarter on Thursday night. Okay? Dude, Cam Newton? Jesus criminy. Cam Newton? I mean, how about somebody in the present? I mean, speaking of like payphones, dude, you're talking about obsolete and outdated guys right now. Stay in the present with me, okay? Stay in reality with me here. Cam Newton. I mean, really. Let's stay in it now. All right. I mean, just look at these lists. It's a list of nobodies. And yet these guys are very important to the system that they're in, aren't they? Aren't they? Mahomes had 61 rushing attempts. He couldn't run that Eagle offense. Hey, could he play with the talent in Philly? Of course he could. But you'd have to redo your entire offense. And most likely you'd have to do it in a bye. So to give you 2 weeks to install stuff. Okay? Dude, just stick with Marcus Mariota. You have no other option. Okay? He's just got to play better. All right. How many people in here believe that the Eagles have a better defense than the Dallas Cowboys? I will say this to you right now before I even get started. The Cowboys have a better secondary than you. From one corner to the next corner, the entire grouping, they're better than you. Okay, they're better than you. The entire secondary as a group is better in Dallas than in Philly. 5-star goes were high. Well, let's take a look at that. I'm high. Your safeties are nowhere in the same room as the Cowboy safeties, and their corners are in your room. Okay? That makes them a better secondary as a unit. Let's take a look at this. Man for man. Shall we? Let's start at left deep. Let's stay in a 43 here so we can make it somewhat simplistic. Stephon Gilmore is not washed. He is not washed. If anything, Slay is. DeMarcus Lawrence versus Brandon Graham. Lawrence is a better player. Graham had a better season. Graham's 36. Who would I take? I would take DeMarcus Lawrence. He's been a better pro. And do I think Brandon Graham could do it again? I don't. By the way, we have goals for a lot of these players. We're going to do that also here. Check mark goes to the Cowboys, DeMarcus Lawrence. Hawkins, left defensive tackle versus Jalen Carter. Who's better? This is unfair. Okay? The Eagles don't get the check here. But I can't give that to the Cowboys. Because in my heart, I think that kid Carter's better. But that's an opinion. That's not fact. He hasn't played like the kid Hawkins has. He's a pretty good run stopper. Okay, so I have to be fair to both here. Do I believe that Jalen Carter could be a Pro Bowler by the end of the year? Yes. Do I think Hawkins could be a Pro Bowler by the end of the year? I do not. Okay? You're right. I'm not going to overthink it. Right now, I would say that's incomplete. You have nothing to stand on but people telling you how good he's doing. And I am the one that told you I think he's the next Jerome Brown. But he hasn't played it down in the NFL yet. How could you justify that by that's an opinion. So we don't know that yet. That's why, hey, if anything, that's on the side almost of the Eagles here. You don't know. Carter not even close. Here's a guy that fucking just said that Carter and not even close and he's never played. How could you put that out there like that? Like, you know, just by what? Watching film at Georgia? That's a push. OC, the right DT for the Cowboys versus Fletcher Cox. Not close, Fletcher. Not close. Fletcher's a stud. Plain and simple. Micah Parsons, right defensive end versus Josh Sweat. I think this is closer than what more people would think. Okay? The only reason I go Parsons, he does more. He does more. It's the only. Sweat is not really a stand-up. It's kind of like the Reddick thing. So it's kind of like, would you compare TJ Watt to Nick Bosa? I'm going to pick Parsons here. Vander Esch versus Morrow. Cowboys. Damon Clark versus Nakobe Dean. Cowboys. Jabril Cox versus Hassan Reddick. Reddick all night. Stephon Gilmore versus James Bradbury. Three years ago, it's not close. It's Gilmore by a mile. He's defensive player of the year. I'm going to take Bradbury. As much as I don't want to, I can't look at Gilmore's resume, and I've got to be in the present. Stephon Gilmore is a Hall of Fame close player when it comes to his resume. Do you understand that? He's a Hall of Fame player. In 2019, he was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. So don't talk to me about Bradbury being better, okay? But today, he's more consistent. Plus, he only has to do one thing. That's play center field. Stephon Gilmore's a man cover guy. Your guy's not. How about this? Think about this for a second. James Bradbury's not a man cover guy. That's why he got fired in New York. He can't play man coverage. Actually, none of your corners can. That's why they play center field. They're not man cover corners. That's not what they're asked to do. And they can't do it. I saw it in the Super Bowl. I'm taking Bradbury though. He's more consistent. He's really a solid ball player. He totally is. James Bradbury over Stephon Gilmore. Again, I got to put the resume aside here. J-Ron Curse over Terrell Edmonds. Not close, Cowboys. Donovan Wilson, Reed Blankenship. It's Wilson. Trayvon Diggs and Slay. Slay was terrible last year at the end of the year. Diggs gambles too much. Slay plays in the system better, though, doesn't he, than what Diggs does. Diggs got to be kind of a freelancer. I don't like freelancers at the corner. So I'm going to take Slay. I don't like freelancers. You can't have freelance corners. Freelance corners, man, they get lucky, and most of the time they don't. Okay? Diggs is a better ball player, but he doesn't play fundamentally sound football. Diggs at least does what he's told. And I go with that. Okay? So, the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cowboys, my opinion, personnel-wise, across the board, match up better than what the Eagles have. Now, the Carter thing could change. Dean could actually be a ball player. Clark's a good Mike. He's a good Mike linebacker. And on top of that, Dan Quinn's a better coordinator. Dan Quinn was part of the Legion of Boom. He built that up there with Bradley and Carroll. Built that defense down in Atlanta to get to a Super Bowl. Dan Quinn is by far a better coordinator than anything you have in your building. Okay? So, at the end of the day, the second here, I do believe your corners are better than the Cowboys. But as a group, the whole from one corner to the next corner, the Cowboys are better than you. Because it's close at the corner. It's not close at the free and strong. It's not close at all, actually. They got good safeties. I would say this, too. The Cowboys could have the best safeties in the league next to the Niners. They get pretty good free and strong safeties back there. They're hitters, too. They're good. And they can play. This kid Curse can play, man. They got better linebackers than you. They got better safeties. And they got a better defensive backfield than you. And a better coordinator than you. So the Cowboys, fundamentally, now, again, will Brandon Graham do what he's going to do? And personally, I'm going to say this about Reddick. I think Reddick is going to do what he does because he's done it for 3 years. Why wouldn't he? Graham doesn't have that on his resume. See, there's a sample size of Reddick doing it consistently every year. There's no sample size of that with Graham. There's none, actually. So you look at it, again, fundamentally, Cowboys have a better defense than the Eagles. Could that change because of the play of Dean? Blankenship. Yeah. Blankenship. Better hope Slay don't fall off like he did last year. You could say the same argument for Gilmore. You got to hope Blankenship, Dean, Carter, and Graham all play up to potential. These other guys were all starters last year. Cowboys are bringing back pretty much the entire group. And you know, I heard the guys on Sports Take go, well, you know, 3 teams in the NFC East on defense last year were really good against scoring defense. Yeah, because the shitty teams you played. How many high-powered offenses did people in the NFC East play last year? None. Vikings, Lions. Cowboys. Now, I would make this point to you. Cowboys have Lawrence, Parsons, Diggs, and Curse as playmakers. Jabril Cox can play too. I like him at the strong side linebacker. By the way, the linebackers in Dallas, it's not really close except for Reddick. Okay? Their linebacking core is pretty good. Now, Vander Esch has got to stay healthy. This guy's been in and out of the lineup, and it's like, this guy's always got some issue with him too. He's almost, not quite, the Rashad Penny of linebackers in the NFL. Okay? All positions are not created equal. Cornerback is more valuable than safeties. I just said that they have a better secondary, okay, than you across the board. And Slay's nothing to write home about now. I don't believe, hey, I'm going to flat out tell you, I don't believe that guy is near what he was in the first 8 games of last year. I do not believe it. I don't think that guy's all that hot anymore. And I want to see Gilmore over with Dallas, too, in a good system. Because every time Gilmore's been in a good system, he's been a Pro Bowler. Okay? He's been a Pro Bowler. Dallas has wasted more talent than any team in the NFL the past 30 years. Correct. Imagine trying to downplay the entire NFC of the NFL. That's actually hilarious. Why? You are the lesser division and the lesser, you are the lesser conference. You are. Gilmore's washed, Slay's washed. Hey, Juju Smith-Schuster worked Slay. Juju Smith-Schuster worked him. So I go nuts here. Now, again, all I'll say one more time is that Dallas, again, they got a good group here. If Jalen Carter does what I think he will, the Eagles will have the second best defensive line in the NFL. Or, excuse me, in the NFC East, next to Washington. Washington's a better group. Okay? I think Washington's the best group. I think New York is probably the last, but they're good too. And I've been saying this for the last 2 months. I think the NFC East probably has the best front four, maybe potentially, of any division in the National Football League. I think there's some pretty good front fours in the AFC East also. Okay? Chip goes, this is trolling when I point out veteran leadership and veteran players in the NFL versus people who haven't done dick. It's not trolling. It's what it is today. I knew this would go here because most of you can't handle when things are put in front of you. When you see it for yourselves, you still want to deny it. You can't tell me shit about Jalen Carter here until you see him play. Do I think? Yes. But again, that's potential. Potential means you haven't done it. Means you haven't done it yet. It's the most overrated word used in professional sports. The playmakers on the Eagles are who? Reddick and then who? Sweat? So here would be your top 3 playmakers on the Eagle defense. Reddick? Sweat? Who else? Fletcher? Cowboys. Parsons? Diggs? Lawrence? Curse? Cox? Sully goes, he doesn't believe in the Dallas safeties. Well, you cannot believe in yours then. Those are good football players. Proven success of a year ago. You got new dudes in the room. I don't know what you're on different teams at different organizations. So as you get ready for the start of the season here, interesting. How about this? I don't know if they're holes anymore. My question mark would be, can Brandon Graham do it again? Is Jalen Carter as good as we think he is? Can Fletcher Cox put up the numbers he put up a year ago? I do think he can. Josh Sweat, does he continue to improve? I do believe he will. Nicholas Morrow, will he make the team? And personally, I think Zach Cunningham should start there. Nakobe Dean, can he play? Reddick, no issues. Bradbury, keep being James Bradbury. Terrell Emmons, does he fit? Is he an upgrade to CJ? Reed Blankenship, will he be able to play 17 ball games and replace Epps' 91 tackles? We'll see. Slay, is he out of gas? All things you're going to be watching this year. All things Howie's going to be watching. There is no question the number one pick in next year's April draft for the Eagles is going to be a corner and then edge rusher to replace Brandon Graham. And depending on what happens with Nolan Smith, if Nolan Smith, and we're going to talk about these guys here in a minute, if Nolan Smith makes a contribution this year, that could speed up the sundial on Hassan Reddick and what they do with him in 2 years. Eagles are not better at DT. You don't know that yet. Jordan Davis has not shown he's better than Hawkins yet. He has not shown he's better than him. He's got 19 tackles last year. The Cowboys were a good top 10 defense. Dude, what are you talking about? The only thing Jordan Davis brings to the mix is a big number 13 pick and a big name. He doesn't bring anything else because he hasn't brought production yet. Okay? All right. I wrote some goals down this year that I'd like to see. I think if the Eagle guys deliver these type of numbers, I think this football team could get back to your NFC Championship game. Okay? And we kind of had a little bit of fun with it yesterday when we put up some numbers. And I like what Tone added. He goes, hey, Sills, just as long as you add Super Bowl ring to it all, that's all I really care about when it comes to numbers with Hurts or anybody else. So here's the whole list. I wrote down a whole bunch of these. And every player getting ready for the start of a season has personal goals that he would like to hit. Reasonable goals that you would like to hit. Okay? I put this down for Hurts. 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 800 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns. He does that, he'll be in the conversation for the MVP again with those 800 yards and 10 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns total. That makes him the best RPO quarterback, in my opinion. And I do believe that will be better than the guy in Baltimore. I don't believe what everyone's saying out there. I don't think it's possible Lamar could have a better season than Jalen because he has before. But I don't know if Jalen hasn't closed that gap where he's just going to be too much to catch. Because I don't know if the Todd Monken offense of Baltimore is going to produce 3,700. I think the most he's ever thrown for is like what? 3,100, 3,200 yards. I mean, he hasn't put a shitload of yards up in a year. I get the 1,200 rushing yards that he put up. I understand that. But I don't remember him putting up like big time passing numbers. I get the 36 touchdowns. That was a huge number. 36 passing TDs, enormous number. That was his MVP season in 17. Okay? But that to me, this is who you're going to see the next 5 years who Hurts is. 3,800, 25, 6, 700 to 800 yards, 10. I think that's who he is. That's okay, though, because nobody in the NFL could run that offense at Philly the way he does. I think that makes him more valuable as a quarterback than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, actually. Philadelphia would have to completely restructure that entire team, or at least the way they approach the game. They'd have to have more high turnover plays, which is chucking the ball down the field. That's not what they're doing. Okay? Here's my goals for Swift. 60 catches, 500 yards receiving, 8 receiving touchdowns. Might be high. I think with the talent around him, I think he can put those up. And I think 800 yards rushing. And I don't really care too much what his rushing TDs are. I care that he's more effective in the passing game. This is why I said yesterday, I think Swift fits the Eagle offense better than any running back that's out there. Maybe Christian McCaffrey. Maybe McCaffrey. Okay? A.J. Brown. This is reasonable goals. 80 catches, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. Anything above that, you're starting to talk career stuff again. Dan, think hunting down Brown will start this season? No, I do not. I think he'll eventually roll into a bunch of starts depending on who they play. Like, I'll tell you what I would do. If I'm playing the New York Giants, I'm starting Sidney Brown. If I'm playing, who else runs the ball a ton? What team runs the ball a ton? Like the Giant game, I'm starting his ass. I want him blowing up Saquon Barkley. I want to pound that guy, and I'm going to use him to do it. That guy would be nice and tenderized by the end of the game. So, Sidney Brown, Giants, I'm starting that guy all night long at safety. Put that guy up in the box on Barkley. Let him blow him up a couple times. Let's see if he wants to run through that line of scrimmage some more. Okay? Let's see how many times Saquon Barkley wants to get a full day of him. I think that might hurt a little bit. Okay? So I put him in the Giant game because I don't want him running around out there with elite wide receivers, but the New York Giants don't have elite wide receivers, nor do they have an elite quarterback. Would you put him in the Niner game? Probably. I'd probably start him in the Niner game. Would I start him in the Cowboy game? Cowboys aren't going to run the ball like they have in the past. Tony Pollard in between the tackles? What's more important for Dallas this year? Tony Pollard to get 238 carries, or Tony Pollard to be what I kind of just said that Swift should be? I think that's what they want him to be. They want him to be a better version of Swift. Okay? Week 1 against the Patriots? I mean, who's up there, right? That could be a thought. Let him slam into Stevenson and Zeke. I'll tell you this. I'd play Sidney Brown a lot in that game. It's Belichick, though, and it's O'Brien. These guys won Super Bowls together. Pretty good coordinators, both of them. I don't know. Might not want to put a rookie in a position like that. Now, hey, here's what you have in New England in week 1 that you always have to remember. There's better coaching in New England than talent on the field. And just because you got the great coaches, that doesn't mean you're going to win the ball game. It's going to make the game closer, but the Eagles are probably going to go into every single game this year with the least amount of experience when it comes to coordinators. But the Eagles will probably go into every game with the most talented team. Who would you rather be? I'd rather be the more talented team. Okay, so as much as I say New England's got the better coaching, I'm not sure how much that translates to the Patriots winning a ball game. I think it makes it closer, though. Okay? So maybe I would put Sidney Brown in that. Maybe I would put him in that Patriots football game. Devontae Smith, I got 100 catches and 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think this is the year that the Eagles get their very first 100-catch wide receiver in franchise history. Personally, I think by the end of the year, Devontae Smith will he be better than AJ? If Devontae Smith becomes better than AJ Brown, do you still pay AJ Brown $25 million? I'm not paying him to be the number 2 guy on my team. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm just saying, what number 2 guy in the NFL makes $25 million? Can you name one? Can you name a number 2 that's in the NFL that's not on a rookie deal or he's making $25 million? I mean, are you going to pay your number 2 $25 million? Or will the Eagles do this? We get 2 ones. And you got to remember, next March, $50 million gets kicked in. Then you got to pay him the following year. They could address Devontae. Well, they can't. He's on a rookie deal. I wonder if they pick the option up. Wow. I wonder if they pick the option up on Devontae and don't give him a long-term contract. What would you do? I'd pick up the option so that I can get Brown for another year. And I don't mind paying what the 5th-year option is at wideout, because it's lesser than what I'd have to pay both of them at $25 million. So I'd probably do that. Okay? They'll pick the option up. That's just smart business. They're not going to restructure a contract with the guy on the other end making $25 million and the quarterback's $50 million. Now, Hurts's cap hit is nothing in the first. I don't know. I think that's an interesting conversation this offseason. What will they do? I believe they'll probably take the option on Devontae, especially if he has a 100-catch season. And I think he's going to. I was wrong about him. He's fit in Philly well. It's the guy in Detroit that can't stay in one piece. That Jameson Williams kid, son, stupid moves, and you can't stay healthy. Okay? Stupid moves, and you can't stay healthy. Come on, kid. You got to start showing you can play in this league. I say this with Goddard. 75 catches, 950 yards, 5 touchdowns, somewhere in there. I mean, well, I think Tony showed us the number. What was it, like 60-some-odd, high 60s%? 3 guys got the majority of the throws from Hurts. I would say that Goddard's in that 75 catch range, 950 yards, could sneak into that 1,000. Can you imagine if you had 3 guys with 1,000 yards? I'm not sure that's ever happened, has it? Let me think. Maybe the Dan Fouts, John Jefferson, and Joyner and Winslow was the last time that. Has that ever happened? 2,000-yard receivers and 1,000-yard tight end. Has that ever happened? Who the big catching? Tony Gonzalez? Did that ever happen in the NFL? You had a 1,000-yard receiver, 2,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard tight end. I think the only team that I can remember are the Chargers team with Fouts. Fouts threw for 4,000 yards in that. I think it's the Winslow years too. I think it's the Winslow years. Okay? Yeah, I think it's Joyner, Jefferson, might even be Chandler. Shit, man, they may have had 3 guys at wide receiver get 1,000 yards and a tight end 1,000. Because I forgot about Wes Chandler there. Okay. That thing was fantastic. Quez Watkins, love to see him get 45 catches, 453 touchdowns. Quez Watkins, if he keeps that job, or how about this? Out of that 3 wide receiver hole, I'd like to see 45 catches, 450 yards, and 3 touchdowns, whoever it is. I'd like to see that out of there, okay? Let me get over to the defense. Brandon Graham. I'd love 8 sacks from him. Brandon Graham gets 8 sacks by the end of the year. You could move that check mark over to the Eagle side instead of DeMarcus Lawrence. If he puts that 8 up, I'd like to see him. Do I think he can get 8? I do. Okay. I'd like to see him get 8. Jalen Carter. And watch this here. Remember what we talked about with the Cowboy D-line? Now, look, this is opinions here. This isn't what the facts are yet. It's a difference from what I did with the Cowboys D-line versus the Eagle D-line. This is what I'm expecting. I got Jalen Carter at 7 sacks. If Jalen Carter gets 7 sacks, he could be the defensive rookie of the year. Jordan Davis, I'd like to see 4 sacks. 4 sacks from him would be a breakout year. 4 sacks would be a breakout year. Okay? Fletcher Cox. Why do I hang on that number 6.5? I'm telling you, man, he's such a freaking good player. He's such a good football player. Keith Saunders goes 4 sacks, pause. He hasn't had a sack in 2 years. Dude, Jordan Davis hasn't had a sack in 2 years. 2 years. I mean, he had, what was it, 4 in 43 games in 4 years at Georgia? You make it sound like this guy had 10 sacks a year at Georgia. He had 4 in 4 years. He had a sack. He averaged a sack a year. And all of a sudden, he's going to come to the NFL and he's going to get 14 sacks. Where are you getting that from? Where in the world are you getting that from? I've never seen a guy in college football who had 2 sacks a year or 1 sack a year go into the NFL and get 15 all of a sudden in 1 season. I've never seen that. That doesn't happen. Aaron Donald was a bitch and won the Outland and Lombardi Trophy and all that stuff when he was at Pitt. You're either a pass rusher or you're not a pass rusher. All of a sudden, a guy who had 4 sacks and averaged a sack a year is going to go into Philly and be I'm giving him 4 sacks. That's more than he's ever had. More than he's ever had. Fletcher, I like him, man. Let me say this to you. Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle, is he better than Corey Simon? Yes. Is he better than Hollis Thomas? Yes. Is he better than Jerome? No. But could he play on gangrene? Yes. Fletcher's really a great ball player. I would say that Fletcher Cox in the last 40 years, going back to the Jerome Brown days, who were the tackles? Who are the tackles for the Eagles? This is the Pro Bowl list. I've showed you this before. My name's down there too. This is the Pro Bowl ballot. And the D tackles for the Eagles back in gang green, this is 87. Jerome Brown, Ken Clark, Mike Pitts, and Mike Gullick. Where would Fletcher fit in there? Him and Jerome would be the two best players. And I like Mike Pitts and Ken Clark. They were good football players. They were good football players. Big picking goes Fletcher's first team All-Eagles. Since 1980, there were some good DTs on that 1980 NFC Championship Eagle team, too. Well, I think Wilbur Jackson was on that. He was a good football player, too. There were some good DTs on that team. They had a good defense, too. Berge in the back there with LeMaster. Herm Edwards in the secondary and them guys. That was a good defensive football team. They had a bunch of really good players then. Clyde's a great defensive end. Clyde was a great defensive end. Okay? So, yeah, but Clyde Simmons is a great football player. But Fletcher Cox is going to go down. You can make an argument that he's like on the all-time first team defensive tackles. Him and Jerome. Jerome probably doesn't get the nod because he didn't play long enough. So maybe somebody, but in my opinion, those are the two best that I've seen the Eagles have. And again, Wilbur Jackson was a good football player. I mean, there's some good defensive tackles on the 80 team. Okay, Corey Simon's a heck of a player, 9.5 sacks his rookie year. Hey, Tone, I'm going to finish up here, man. Right defensive end. I got Josh Sweat at 12 sacks. I'd like to see 12 sacks out of him. If Josh Sweat gets 12 sacks, he's going to be the all-pro end, not the Pro Bowl end. Okay? There's a shot Josh Sweat could be like Javon Curse, like Clyde Simmons, DeMarcus Ware, like that. I think he's a really good football player. And he's just getting better and better and better. Reggie White's a great end. And Bear, I know he went up and down. They moved him all over. Tilt nose, 2 technique, 3 technique, 5 and 7. So I know they moved him all over, but he was predominantly an end. I'd like to see 4 sacks apiece with Bradbury and Slay. I'd like to see 4 there, between the both of them. Nolan Smith. I'd like to see about 5 sacks out of him. I think he's got the capability. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles figure it out. I think he's the Rubik's Cube this year. William Fuller was good. Surely was. He was a really good football. I think his best years, though, Kevin, I think they were in Houston with the Oilers. Okay? I think William Fuller's best years were in Houston. He's a good player, man. I knew William Fuller very well. Great player. Trent Cole's more of an end, not a defensive tackle. More of an edge rusher guy. We're talking edge rushers. Hugh Douglas is an edge rusher. I'm talking Fletcher when it comes to DT and DTs that you've had in your sport. Is this a fair goal for Kobe Dean? 120 tackles? 3 INTs? For the record, that's less than any year that TJ Edwards had as a starter in Philly. Okay, that's less than any year that TJ had. And so I've lowered the standards of the position. Okay, I mean, I've lowered it. Now, if Carter plays like he can, and the goals that we set for, by the way, if all these goals are set on defense, the Eagles will have accomplished this. You're better than Dallas. I was talking a couple moments ago about today, right now, because a lot of this we don't know. Is Reed Blankenship going to take over for 91 tackles? I don't know that yet. And so that's why you look at the safety position in Dallas and go, well, they're better because they've done it as a group. It's really not a rip. It's just who you have and who you haven't had. And again, there's more here. I guess to end this thing, there's more unknowns than there is in Dallas's defense with the Eagles. There's just more unknowns. Okay? So is that the story? We're going to hit on that in hour number 2 here. By the way, don't forget, we're going to talk to our guy Jason Cole, and we'll get his thoughts on the storylines that are going around the NFL. The final exhibition game of the year will be on Thursday. Hey, don't forget, we are doing our 40th anniversary and our celebration with our great friends at Hooters. This is their 40th year celebrating that great place. I mean, I was there at the very beginning with Ed Drosty and everybody in Clearwater when it first dropped and everybody started going, what is this? What is this? And many of the same things that they do then are still being put out today, and that's why it's great to see that tradition sticks when it comes to Hooters. By the way, also, your fantasy draft parties, if you're looking to have a place for you to have those draft parties, please do me a favor, call ahead to any of the 7 locations nearest you in the Northeast area. You can go online to going to northeasthooters.com to find that one location nearest you. We're going to be doing a ton of stuff with the King of Prussia Hooters, and we just can't wait to see you guys out there with us each and every single month. The iconic Hooter girls are going to be there to serve you. Tuesdays, you buy 10 wings, you get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, how about this? 1983, all you can eat. Kids eat for free on Saturdays. Spectacular stuff. Now, I love this one. This is a great special, a 40-year tradition as well. 6 items, $6, your favorite draft, fried pickles, your sandwiches, your steamers. You can get it all there at Hooters. And again, go to one of the 7 locations nearest you by finding out on the website at northeasthooters.com to find that location nearest you. And do me a favor. When you go to Hooters, you tell them Big Sil sent you.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Seals, hour number 2. Appreciate y'all coming aboard. We're going to take a look at the final exhibition week of the season here in a second. And I'm also going to give you my true contenders to win the Super Bowl, not to make the playoffs. How many teams do you – we'll get to that here in a minute. I first want to start this hour off by doing this. Hey, Kobe, happy birthday to you, dude. Your legend grows. I was never a Kobe Bryant fan when he was playing. I am a gigantic Kobe fan now. Isn't that crazy? I guess it's because we got a chance and other people that were around him. 45th birthday today. Just telling these legendary stories. Because Kobe was like Tiger and Jordan when they played. They never told you who they are. Did you even know what political party Michael Jordan was when he played? I don't even remember him talking politics. Tiger, same thing. I didn't know anything about those guys. And I just thought Kobe was a ball hog. I was more of a Shaq guy. So maybe that's probably why I was a little bit polluted when it came to Kobe Bryant. But, dude, he's made me a better dad. I make sure I tell my kid every day I love her because nothing's given to you. I mean, no matter what your fame is or who you are, you got to live in the moment. You can't be worrying about 10 years from now. It'd drive you crazy. You got to live in the moment, man. And, when you hear people like Phil Jackson or you read something that Phil wrote in a book that Kobe was going to be the most miserable human being in the history. I understand because we kind of talked about that yesterday a little bit about some of these eccentric guys. They're just maniacs. Kobe looked like a great dad. He had repaired his relationship with his wife. Hey, man, what marriage hasn't had bumps and bruises? But because Kobe Bryant was so polarizing and so much of a star, his personal relationship, people go like this. Kobe was a bad husband. No, Kobe was a flawed husband. We all are flawed. Don't walk around like you're better than someone when you've done maybe the same ills that someone else has done and casting judgment on someone else. You have no way and no right to do that. Well, Kobe was a bad husband. Really? Well, you know what? There's a bunch of things I wish I could walk back over to. If I'm being honest with myself, hey, I've been married 33 years. Do you think there's a few years that I'd like to have back and maybe walk a couple things back? Absolutely. Okay? It's just what it is, man. When you're together that long, I think it's about persevering. Because, hey, love? It's funny when I ask my wife that question. She goes like this. I asked my wife this question. I stopped asking it. I don't ask my wife this question if she loves me anymore. I don't. She looked at me and she goes like this. I've been with your fat ass for 35 years. What do you think? The last time I needed that. Kobe made me think about all this stuff. I don't even ask that question anymore. Dude, my friendship with my wife is more important than the love for my wife. Friends, I mean, right? Friendship lasts forever. Love is fleeting. Love? What's love got to do with it? Do you do right by one another? And to see what Kobe became as a dad and how him and Gigi, and he was like trying to get her into UConn, wanted her to be a WNBA player. Okay? Cool, man. Don't you have more respect for Kobe today? And listen, it's hard to talk to Philly people because they knew who this guy was. He didn't learn Mamba mentality in LA. You don't really think he learned Mamba mentality in Los Angeles, do you? I mean, he learned that thing in Philly. He learned that thing showing up to the gym with his dad, Jelly Bean. He learned competing. He saw Michael Jordan. He saw go. Hey, there's a lot of parallels between Kobe and Tiger. Tiger's dad loved Jack Nicklaus, and Kobe's dad loved MJ. And those were signature role models in those homes. Shit, man. Tiger put up all of Jack's major championships, all 18 of them. Kobe had posters of MJ. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome, man. See, Jelly Bean, what was cool about him, he said this is what you got to do. Do this, this, and this. I didn't do this, and I wasn't good enough to do this, and this, and this, and this. You do all these boxes. And then he knew he had the talent. The only thing he had to do was outwork people. Do you know why Kobe was such a workaholic? He realized he was more talented than anybody else in the league and that he could outwill people and outwill talent. The same thing Jalen Hurts is doing. Jalen Hurts has talent, but he outwills the other talented guys like Justin Herbert. Am I right? Jalen outwills. He's got good talent. You know, it's the coolest thing when you find out if I work harder than you, I'm going to get ahead of you. I'm not going to be better than you, but I'm going to get ahead of you. I tell my daughter that all the time. Like when I got to college at Miami, man, there were 21st team All-Americans in high school. More talented than me, I thought. We had a guy in there named Darius Frazier, who was a parade All-American, Gatorade All-American defensive tackle. I go, I want that guy, and I want that guy's scholarship, and I want that. I went in there and beat him out. I got all the way up next to Jerome. I left there, only Jerome was better. And I had Kennedy and Maryland behind me. They weren't better than me. Not at that time. It was just hard work. I outworked you. It's such a great thing when you know that all I have to do is put more time in. He'll quit. He doesn't have the intangible. Like, look, who do you think is going to get further in their careers, Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts? Kyler Murray is a more gifted athlete than Jalen, but Jalen's going to have a better career. He's just going to have a better career. Okay? Hard work, man. Hard work. And maybe not as talented, I'll take it. I'll take 53 of them dudes. Take 53 of them guys. Okay? I want to get to the NFC East here in a second also. But I do want to throw this out too. I want to show you the difference between organizations that are preparing for the upcoming NFL season and teams that are in position to win a Super Bowl. And I want to show you something here. Look at the Colts. It's shocking. And does it now make sense why Peyton Manning wants nothing to do with the Colt organization? He looks at himself as a Denver Bronco. I now know why. he doesn't want to publicly say it, but have you ever seen Peyton Manning doing a ton of events for the Colts? They may honor him every now and then, but it just seems like he's so distant from that relationship, a place where he had incredible success. But he identifies himself as a Bronco. He lives in Denver. He loves the organization. He does stuff with the organization all the time. He's always doing shit with the Broncos. He never does anything with the Colts. I mean, they got to kind of like pay him for events, I heard. I think this has a lot to do with the owner, Jim Irsay. And I think it's because of the way Jim Irsay handled even Peyton Manning with his neck injury, because he wanted Andrew Luck so bad. You know, when they threw Peyton Manning out the window and they just said, hey, we're going after him, we want Andrew Luck. I don't think Peyton Manning ever really forgave that. That owner, man, now he's making enemies with Jonathan Taylor. What's the point 10 days to the start of the season? I can't. Now, you know what? I'm going to take something back here. Tone, I've said this before. I'm going to say it now. I don't think Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning underachieved in Indianapolis. I think they overachieved because they had to overcome that dumbass owner. They had to overcome that guy. They won a Super Bowl in spite of Jim Irsay. They overcame. They didn't underachieve. Quite frankly, I'm stunned they won a Super Bowl. Actually got to 2 of them. Okay? Maybe in the third hour we'll do the Buddy story. Am I right when I say this? I'm not so sure any longer, Buddy. I'm not so sure any longer that Tony Dungy underachieved. Jim Irsay, it's a conveyor belt of bullshit every year. The owner does something absurd. Why did you get rid of Carson Wentz again? You haven't had a quarterback in the building to duplicate what he did. Why'd you fire Frank Reich? Why did you draft Anthony Richardson? Anthony Richardson, sorry. He may turn out to be the next Cam Newton. More power to him. I would never have taken that. That's the kind of gamble there that you're talking about, Trey Lance shit. Anthony Richardson looks like Trey Lance to me. I don't know. The only difference is that he played in the SEC. We shall see. Why in the world would Jim Irsay alienate his best offensive player 10 days? Hey, you want to trade? Go ahead. God, this guy plays with that football team like he plays with his memorabilia in his museum of memorabilia. He thinks the players and the coaches are all like memorabilia pieces that he could just put in a museum and everyone likes to come and watch it. He's not thinking about winning Super Bowl. Do you actually think the Colts are thinking about winning a Super Bowl? They can't even win today. It just makes no sense, man. I mean, it's like even Jerry Jones doesn't F it up like that. Irsay's usually good to his players. Since when? You think he was good to Peyton Manning? The way he handled them? You think he was really great to Dwight Freeney at the end? Take a look at some of those endings that players have had in Indianapolis. Not the best. You think he was great with Brackens? I don't know. I don't I don't see it. All right, before I get into week 3 here, I wrote these teams down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 teams that I think can actually win the Super Bowl. 10 teams. Okay? Marshall Faulk didn't finish his career in Indy. He finished it with the Rams. Edgerrin James does like Jim Irsay. I've talked to Edgerrin. Here's the teams in the AFC that I think have these are not playoff teams. I think these teams have chances to win the Super Bowl. The Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Jags, and the Chiefs out of the AFC. Those would be my 5. I think 5 teams legitimately have a shot to win the Super Bowl out of the AFC. Okay? I think they have a shot to win it. Now, remember, you got to play against those teams now if you're the NFC. I'm going to take that team off because I'm actually going to take that team off. How many teams do you think in the NFC have a legitimate chance to beat the Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Jags, Chiefs in the Super Bowl? I don't think the Jets have a chance to win the Super Bowl. No, I do not. I don't think they have a good enough offensive line. And I don't think they have a really good enough offensive coaching staff. James, what 3 teams? I do not think Detroit has a shot to win the Super Bowl. Their goals are too lower. They're talking about making the playoffs. Their goal is not to win the Super Bowl. Eagles. Eagles, that's it. Scott says Eagles, that's it in the NFC. Eagles, Dallas, Niners. I think that's the 3. There's only 3 teams out of that I think can win the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Cowboys versus Bills. They're not beating them. Cowboys versus Ravens. Maybe. Cowboys, Bengals. No way. Cowboys, Jags. Cowboys, Jags. No Saints. I think they're going to, hey, P. Toilet, I think they're going to win 12 games. Get knocked out in the divisional round against the better teams because the better teams in the East are playing tougher schedules. Again, the Saints will have more wins than the Eagles this year, but they're not the better team. Don't confuse that. Just because I'm picking the Saints to win home field advantage, that doesn't mean I think they're a better team than Philly. I think they play nobody. They're in a shit division. I think they'll probably sweep that division. Whereas the Eagles are not going to sweep their division. And you're playing AFC teams. You're a better team. You're playing better people. You're not going to have the same record that a team that plays tomato cans. Isn't that common sense? If you line up 17 tomato cans, chances you're going to have a pretty good record versus lining up against teams that are really great. Okay? Just use some common sense there with that. Like you could be an 11-6 team. The Saints could be 12-5. Okay? Who's the better team? The Eagles. If healthy, the Eagles. And it's really kind of a little bit close, but not crazy close. Plus the head coach. I mean, Dennis Allen. So far, I haven't really seen a ton out of the guy, and he sucked when he was with the Raiders. I don't know. I mean, hey, Miller, I'm not saying to you the Saints are better. I don't think they are. You play a tough-ass schedule this year. Hear me out, Sills. It's so hard for me to really take the Cowboys serious, and here's why. What have they done differently this offseason that makes you believe they truly can win, let alone make it to the Super Bowl? Year after year, they have real talent, and year after year, it's supposed to be their year. It's a fair comment. What have they done? Here's the most important thing that the Dallas Cowboys have done this year, especially on the defensive side. They brought continuity back. They got continuity. You don't. Okay? Now, does that translate into Super Bowls? Here's why I give the Cowboys a chance to get to the Super Bowl. They got to get out of the divisional round. And if they get into that NFC title game against the Eagles, they have a track record of beating you. I mean, it's one thing what Tone just said. He's right. They've got 2 years in a row now where they've won 12 games. Albeit, man, early exits. Get it. They did take a healthy 49er team on. They retired Brady. I mean, the Cowboys went Brady, the healthy 49ers. The Eagles went Daniel Jones and Christian McCaffrey. Victors go the spoils. They got home field. I think if that was reversed, I'd like to have seen that. Okay? The Eagles have to go to Tampa because they would have had to have gone to Tampa because Tampa was the division winner, even with a losing record. And would have had to have played Brady. Would they have beat him? I think so, for sure. Okay? Then they would have had to play the 49ers. Okay? Because the Cowboys would be playing the Giants. That's how that would have played out. If it would have been vice versa, or the Cowboys. It would have been Cowboys and Giants. So that he's not wrong. They haven't won big games in 27 years. I mean, I showed it to you. Tony Romo, 0-3 in divisional games. Dak Prescott, 0-3. But 8-3 versus the Eagles. Okay? The Eagles are – the Cowboys, for whatever people say, and I will hold to this, they're made to beat Philly. They're built to beat Philly. I don't know if they're built to win a Super Bowl, though. Sounds crazy. You know, it's funny, too, that people look at Mike McCarthy. We're going to find out what kind of play caller Mike McCarthy really is. Okay? Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl as a play caller. Well, he's not really good with his timeouts, and he's not really good with 2 minutes in and 2 minutes with the remaining game. Neither was Andy Reid in Philly. I wouldn't put Andy Reid up there with clock management and say that Andy Reid was some sort of demon and dealing with timeouts and clock management in Philly. Would you? I don't really actually think Andy Reid was a very good coach when it came to 2-minute warnings and the end of 2 minutes in the game and dealing with timeouts. I think his clock management, he was kind of like Mike Martz. I thought him and Mike Martz had a lot in common on how they called plays. Mike Martz never gave a shit about like challenges and shit like that and timeouts. He was full gas on the pedal, man. That's how Martz coached. And there was a lot of similarities in how Andy Reid and Mike Martz coached. That's how I saw it. They weren't really great. They weren't really great when it came to dealing with like timeouts and 2-minute warnings. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about them. This isn't the first time they've had continuity. They had Garrett for 9 years as a coach. They had talent back then. The reality is, regardless of what happens to the Eagles, they just can't get it done. It's just who they are and who they have been. Well, you know, I tell all you guys, this is what it is, and that's actually not an opinion. That's actually the facts on what Tone's saying. That's not an opinion. See, I look at a statement like that, and that's what that is to me. That's a statement, not an opinion. And it's a factual statement. Okay? Until proven otherwise. What is going to make this year different? I think Dak Prescott's legacy is on the line as an NFL quarterback. He's either going to be here. Dak Prescott is either going to start putting himself in the category of Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach, or he's going to be in the category of Tony Romo and Danny White. I think that's what this is this year for him. You're either Danny White, Tony Romo, or you're Troy Aikman and you're Roger Staubach. You can't look at Tony Romo and Danny White and go, well, those guys have all the passing records. Yeah, there's a reason. Who has all the titles? Staubach and Aikman. Do you know that Romo and Danny White have all the passing records and no Super Bowls? Well, White does because he backed up Staubach, but he was the punter. Okay? I'd say this year he's got to I say Mike McCarthy. The question, I think the overall, what Tone is saying, in my opinion, the overall, like above it all, is can Jerry stay out of the way is probably what stopped the team the last 27 years. Just that's the beautiful thing with Kraft. Kraft gets in the way when he has to. He doesn't need to. Jim Irsay gets in the way because he needs to, because it's his nature. And it's Jerry's nature. You know how everybody thinks that they want to be the offensive coordinator? I said this years ago, and I'll give you guys a great example of it. And I'll compare two coaches to what we're talking about here. Then we'll move on to week 3 of the NFL here. So when Ray Perkins, my coach in Tampa, had just come over, he was single-handedly picked to take over the Bear Bryant football program. You got to remember something about Ray. Ray turned the New York Giants around. He drafted Lawrence Taylor. He drafted Phil Simms. He hired Bill Belichick. He hired Bill Parcells. He's the guy that got in there, Gary Reasons. He's the guy that brought in all those great coaches. Romeo Cornell. Those were all Parcells. Those were not – everyone's under the assumption that Deflategate that year, everyone's always under the assumption that Parcells brought those coaches in. Tom Coughlin. It's not true. Those were all Ray Perkins guys. So Ray leaves and gets the Alabama job because Bear Bryant single-handedly picked him. Well, he wants to get back in the NFL. Buccaneers and Hugh Culverhouse. This is what Ray did. Ray was the OC. Ray was the quarterback coach. Ray was the head of personnel. Ray was the vice president of operations. Ray was the head coach. This guy wore so many hats, he wasn't good at any of them. Jimmy Johnson, now when you're with him, he hires the assistant coaches. He's in charge of the personnel. And the meetings are like this. He goes around the practice field. He sees the D-line coach, the O-line coach, secondary coach, all these guys coaching. And then what he does, he gets in the meeting and goes, give me your report on what the DBs did today. Give me your report on the D-line. Tell me what we're doing here. Gets his coordinators together, puts them together. They have a staff meeting on how they're going to attack this team. Jimmy doesn't do any coaching. He doesn't do any play calling on game day. Has none of that. He has no say in the plays. If the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, it'll be like an atomic bomb. You're going to have to wear noise concealing headphones. Oh my God, the place will go nuts. Absolutely. Those are great delegators. I think Nick Sirianni, you know what, personally, I would say this. I think Howie Roseman wanted more of that as a head coach, and that's why Sirianni's the head coach of the Eagles. Sirianni's really not a play caller. He's more of an overseer. and an observationist. And it's kind of like he coaches his team like Jimmy did. But the difference is Jimmy wore both the GM hat and he wore the head coaching hat like Nick. But he never got in the way of the assistants. Not until they got into their staff meetings. You know, I tell people this all the time. That Herschel Walker deal was done on a run. Dave Wannstedt has told that story here numerous times. They were in the midst of the 1-15 team. Jimmy and them, they went on this run every day at noon. Every year I knew him, and every year in Dallas, they went on this noon run. All the coaches, you had to go on it. And this is where they talked shop. They didn't talk shop inside because Jimmy always thought that there were too many years in the building. Jimmy's running down the street in MacArthur Avenue and Thousand Oaks, not Thousand Oaks. Where are they? Valley Ranch. They're running down the road, that cobblestone road. Jimmy looks over at Dave Wannstedt and goes like this. I think I'm going to trade Herschel Walker. And Dave's like this. Okay. Walker had come off a 1,500-yard year and 750 yards receiving. I mean, this guy was an all-pro. And Jimmy's like, I'm going to trade him. What's the point of having him? And he goes like this. What do you think Jerry would do? I guess I don't give a shit what Jerry does. He put a deal together with Cleveland. And Jimmy constructed this deal with Cleveland, had it done. And last minute, Minnesota came in. While all the coaches were coaching and doing all that other shit, Jimmy was constructing the team. My point again, I think that's kind of what Howie and them envision with their head coach. They don't want a guy involved in being the offensive coordinator, being the play caller, being a guy who's a quarterback. I don't think they want any of that. I think Doug wanted a lot of that control because that's control. But again, if you're smart about it and you know how to manage Howie, I think that's what Nick's great strength is right now. Nick's great strength, in my opinion, is that he's managing Howie. He's not in Howie's way, and it's working. That's a talent too. Like, I would not go here and go like this. Nick Sirianni's some great coach. But at the end of the day, are you winning? Is there chaos in your organization? Is there any kind of bullshit going on? No. The head coach can create so much shit, can sabotage an entire organization. And he's, going along with what they're doing. I think it's a talent. He may not be, by the way, personally, he was a shitty play caller when he got to Philly. He was 2-5. He was 2-5. They took it away from him. He just didn't hand it over. That's not how play callers are. Another sad thing about the Cowboys and why they can't get ahead is they keep their players out of the news cycle. They can't keep their players out of the news cycle. Defensive end Sam Williams gets arrested for alleged possession of weed and an unlawful firearm. They have no culture, no structure, no discipline. Well, to all of that, in really a simple phrase, they have no accountability because the head coach is the guy that you usually are accountable to. You get to go to your butt buddy, Jerry Jones, who pays you, drafts you, talks to you, loves you, and treats you like his son. Well, unfortunately, you don't really treat him like your son. You treat him like a girl. I mean, sometimes you got to come down on this stuff here, man. I mean, the Randy Gregory stuff, that was a poorly handled deal. Let him walk out the building for $500,000. Dumb. Randy Gregory, though, he'd probably let him walk out because he's not the great character guy. You had Greg Hardy in the building. I've always respected organizations that take shots at players that have dents in the fender. I've always respected that. Okay, I have. As long as you get it right. Like the Eagles taking a shot at Vic. I loved it. Why? Well, Vic never did any shit again. He's never done anything. And he's true to his word to this day. I hope it stays that way. And by the way, I believe it is. I think Michael Vick is a better man today. Okay? I'm a fan of that. I root for that. I root for Michael Vick. I mean, look, like I said, nobody on the planet. Can you imagine Michael Vick in today's environment in the NFL? Trying to get a job back in the league. After all that, even if he was sorry, went to prison. Dude, you're in Leavenworth. You're pressing license plates. You spent 18 months or whatever it was in prison. Hard prison. You didn't go to some sort of Martha Stewart, Dublin, California jail where you have golf courses and swing sets. This guy's pressing plates. I don't know about you, man. I think this guy served his time, and you know what? He gets an opportunity to rehabilitate himself. But most of you use the word rehabilitate, and you don't mean it. You don't mean it. You don't mean it. You say and you think you mean it. But people make mistakes, man. Jalen Carter, great example. Hey, I'm giving the kid a benefit of the doubt. You know how the Eagles, you know what's great about the Eagles with Jalen Carter? What's great about them, okay, they don't have to tell Jalen Carter that they believe him. They paid him and drafted him. This is the pros. Don't talk to me and tell me what you're going to do. Just do it. And I'll know through your actions how you feel about me. Dude, we today in our country and in sports love to be told dumb shit that never happens. It never happens. How frustrating. The Eagles go, hey, I don't have to tell the kid Jalen Carter we love him. I drafted you 10th. What more do you need? Nothing. Nothing. You don't have to tell me you like me. You don't have to tell me you are thinking a lot about me. I love that Slay's calling him Rhino. He looks like a baby rhino. You're right. There's a reason you don't hear about the Eagle players getting caught up when your players have respect for the culture. It shows their behavior. Like you said, the Cowboys are the Kardashians of the NFL. All they care about is the uniform, TV ratings, and company parties. Yeah. It's not important to hoist a Lombardi trophy because Jerry doesn't have the priority. The owner doesn't have the priority any longer. See, he looks at it this way. My brand has gone up from $154 million when I bought the team to $10 billion. I got 3 Super Bowls. I don't need any. What else do I need? Whether I got 3 Super Bowls in the first 5 years of me owning the team, I got more Super Bowls than Tom Landry. I got more Super Bowls than Tex Schramm. I got more Super Bowls than any owner of the Dallas Cowboys in history. What do I need to prove? You understand that, right? Jones has more Super Bowls than any guy who's ever owned the Cowboys. What's he need to do? Okay. Ben goes like this. He wants to win. You're wrong. Okay, Ben. Real quick then. Who's the one person he can't replace? There's 2 really. Jimmy Johnson and himself. If you wanted to win, you would fire yourself as GM. And let somebody that understands how to run a team like Howie in today's NFL. He runs it like he's in the 80s. He has not replaced Jimmy Johnson or himself. He did win with Barry. You mean with Jimmy's guys? Okay. The last 30 years, those were all Jimmy Johnson's players. Barry even said it. This is the biggest mistake of your ownership when he took the job. Larry Lacewell told me what was said in the building. Where's Jimmy? Well, Bearing, he's fired. And he looked at him because he coached him at Arkansas. How could you F this up? And within a matter of 3 years, the Cowboys have never won a divisional game. And it's been 30 years since they've been to one. I mean, what are you talking about? He wants to win. Don't you think after 30 years of being the GM and never getting out of the divisional round? I mean, dude, he's been nothing but failure. I don't get that guy. He wants to win? Where? Where has he won? He replaced Aikman. He replaced Emmett. He replaced Michael. He replaced his defense. He hasn't been able to replace Jimmy Johnson. Why is that? Because Jimmy was the GM and head coach. And Jerry thinks he's the owner, GM, head coach. I'll tell you what, too, Ben. You can say whatever you want. This ain't an opinion. This is a fact. What's the common thing that what Tone says? What's the common theme since they won their last Super Bowl? Jerry Jones is the GM, and they haven't won. And their culture has no accountability or respect for authority. Let me say this to you. If you effed up with Coach Johnson, he had a thing, and I posted this because I saw that Urban Liar thing, that Swamp Kings or whatever. It was just a knee pad job on Urban Liar to try to help his image again to get another job in college football. He is such a scumbag. Urban Liar is the worst. He is terrible. He's a terrible human. He's a liar. No one respects him. I mean, thank God he had baby Jesus and Tim Tebow. He is such a phony. And that Swamp Kings or whatever the thing is was just a knee job. Okay? Was just a knee job. And they're making it sound like, well, this guy told you who you were. No, Jimmy Johnson started the totem pole thing. And the totem pole for players is this. How good are you? I'm going to put up with this much shit because you're this good on the totem pole and you're up high. You're down here on the totem pole and you're down here at the bottom. I'm putting up with this much shit of you. And if you don't produce, I'm putting up with no shit. Out. I don't need it. I don't like dumb players. I'll tell you that. He's been on here, 20 times? So if you're this, you get a lot of latitude. You get a lot of latitude. If you this contribution, like that Derek Barnett guy is the only problem that I see the Eagles have. That guy would have been fired 4 years ago if Coach Johnson was the head coach of the Eagles. He ain't putting up with that guy. That guy has more dumb moments in his Eagle career than he has good moments. Why would you have a guy like that on your team? He's a walking, waiting disaster. That's a guy that gets your programming problems. Okay? Derek Barnett is a loser. I don't want any of that on my team. Can't have undisciplined players, man. Cowboys have a whole shit ton of them. You want to know why Derek Barnett's not a good player? Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett. That's why he's not a good player. Derek Barnett. And, dude, I don't know what's up with the media and Philly giving that guy hall passes. for being a completely non-productive player. First-round draft choice, who's like on some sort of like GI Bill or a scholarship. It's like he's on scholarship. Yeah, you know, maybe in his senior year he'll turn out to be somebody. Okay? He's a stiff. Okay? Hey, Seals, I got a Derek Barnett jersey. Dude, I wouldn't wear that to barbecues. You might get laughed at by Eagle fans. Okay? Derek Gray goes like this. Derek Barnett. So, hey, how many people on that Eagle team lack discipline? In the starting 22. None. None. How many people lack discipline in the Cowboys starting 22? Dak. Throw the ball away, not in the double coverage. Why is it so hard for people like Dak and Wentz to do this? Well, I'd rather have an incomplete pass than a pick. Something wrong with you. That's not confidence. That's playing low percentage success. Brady never played. Jalen doesn't play his game like that. Jalen doesn't play his game like that. I'll throw it away. I'll take an incomplete pass. Live another day. No turnover. Carson Wentz. Boom. Kick. 3. Touchdown. 7 down. This guy is a one-man field position changer, Wentz. Look at the discipline issues. CeeDee Lamb. That guy does not run good routes. Diggs. Gambles. I'll take Bradbury. I like the way he plays, man. He's a consistent corner. Doesn't get beat plus 25. Doesn't gamble. He does. You know what? Let me tell you what's great about Bradbury. He'd rather give up the 10-yard play than the plus 25 play any day. And he does it. He doesn't believe that he's going to play against a quarterback that's going to go 14-18 for 320 yards and 5 touchdowns on him. He don't believe that, and nor do I, unless you play Mahomes. Then it's a different conversation. But how many Mahomeses are there in the NFL? There's a one of. Allen will make a mistake in a game. Garoppolo will – every guy, maybe not Burrow will make a mistake in a game. See, the guy that won't make the mistake in a game, I think Mahomes will make more of a mistake because I think he believes he can throw his team out of trouble, and he can. Hurts is not going to throw his team into trouble. Like, how many people believe that Jalen Hurts will have a 3-pick game this year? I'm not sure. I don't even know the last time has he ever had a 3-pick game? Has he ever had a 3-pick game? In his two years starting, I don't think he's ever had a 3-pick game. Okay, I don't. I don't believe you're not going to see that. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, am I going to see 3 picks maybe? Yeah. Mahomes. Yeah, I could see 5 touchdowns and 3 picks. Burrow, I could see 3 picks, 2 TDs. Same with Allen. I'm not going to see 3 picks. If anything, I'm going to see this. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like shit like that. Keith, he had 3 picks in that Giants game against Daniel Jones his first year starting. Okay, so he's had 1. That's really exceptional. That's really exceptional, okay, that he's only had 1 or 2 in his career. All right, hour number 3. We're going to look at the final week of the exhibition season. Do me a favor. 40th anniversary of Hooters is the official home of the National Football Show. this fall, and we so look forward to having you out there with us at the King of Prussia. I've posted a event calendar that I'm going to be in town each and every single weekend. We're actually going to be doing also some tailgating at the link. So you got to find out over at Dan Sileo Show. I posted it all. You'll see it there. Please make sure also with the 40th anniversary, you understand something with the 7 locations. If you can't get to the King of Prussia, they got 7 locations in the Northeast area. All you have to do is go to northeasthooters.com to find that location nearest you for you and enjoy what I've been talking about now for over 40 years. No matter what the market is, I've had them part of my program for my 30-year career when it comes to broadcasting. The Iconic Hooter Girls are going to be there to serve you. Some great specials Tuesdays. You buy 10 wings, you get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, 1983, all you can eat. Kids eat free on Saturdays. I love this one, too, where you get to put 6 items together, steamers, some of the great sandwiches, a hamburger, your favorite draft, $6. Simple as that. Also, the happy hours that they have, you have to get there. Go to northeasthooters.com to find that location nearest you. Don't forget, again, we'll be doing all these great events with the King of Prussia Hooters. We look forward to seeing you out there. And when you get to Hooters, do me a favor. You tell them Big Sil sent you.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sil's National Football Show. We appreciate you coming aboard. Let me look this one stat up here. Let me look this stat up here. And let me ask you something. Hey, Tone. Okay, let me ask you something. Let me look at this. One more. Why are you rooting for Trey? Why are you rooting for Trey Turner? Why are you giving him standing ovations? For what? Man. Little soft to me, dogs. You're trying to prop him up. He needs a cheering section. Why are you cheering? You know what? Now I know why I'm not on the radio in Philly, because you couldn't have me. I do not support that. I do not root or cheer for a 250 hitter that you spent a ton of money on and we're expecting more from. That's bullshit. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, well, the fans are helping turn around Trey Turner. I'm like, wow, you talk about soft. Trey Turner needs to turn himself around. I don't need somebody in section 15 to tell me, hey, man, keep your chin up. It's all good. Hey, you ain't paying my bills. What's Sonny tell Cologino? You worried about Mickey Mantle? Ask Mickey Mantle if your old man can't pay rent. See what Mickey Mantle says. Go see what Mickey Mantle says. As soft as it looks, he's been red hot. Okay. It's good fodder, I guess. Man. Hey, Trey. Here, wait. So this is now Philly. Hey, Trey, do you need a hug? Damn. I just think I'm too old school with that. Hey, Trey. So here's Tone and all the new. Is this the new guys? The new fans in Philly? Hey, Trey, you okay? You need a hug? Come here, man. Come on, man. You make $30 million. Come on. You need a hug? Come on, man. Hey, I'm sorry. I don't get it. I thought it was a little different than that, man. Look at relative. Did it work? So you think you throwing rainbow kisses out to him. Trey, here's what turned Trey Turner. Hey, wait a minute. Here's what turned Trey Turner's season around. Trey, we love you. Trey, kisses and rainbows and hugs. Trey, we love you. Trey. Trey. He's turning the season around because I'm throwing kisses out. Trey. That's my guy. You see what happened? I threw 14 kisses out in that Marlins series. This guy picked his batting average up 15 points. Yeah. And hey, man, you know what? I think I'm where I'm supposed to be because you couldn't handle that with me, man. I'd be like, hey, the Phillies would be calling IP going, why is he doing this? Trey! Hey, if I do this, will Trey hit 300? You think that's worth like 2 home runs against the Braves? Oh, man. Oh, and then see, this is actually really kind of shocking and all in one week. So you're blowing kisses to Trey Turner and you're covering a guy who's having a temper tantrum this week And James Harden. Man, Philly sports has changed. I mean, you got another guy who's the MVP. He scrubs his social media with anything Sixers. Hey, man, again, I know why I'm not in radio anymore. Because I'd be killing these guys, and I am now. That shit's stupid. Let me scrub my Twitter page. Support my guy who's throwing a temper tantrum. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be a Sixer. Mwah. It has to be me. Okay, this is nothing on you. This is a Dan Sileo deal. Okay? This is a me deal here. Temper tantrum Harden, rainbow kisses for Turner. I think I've seen it all now. Holy Madon. That's why the Eagles are number one in Philly. Hey, can you imagine? Dude, nobody's going to be blowing kisses to Jalen Hurts. Like, hey, that's not what he's like. He don't need any of that shit. You think anybody was blowing him kisses when they took his gig away in Alabama? How about that guy now in Alabama, too, trying to take credit for Jalen Hurts' development? If anything, he was destructive in his development. Nick Saban has done more harm to Jalen Hurts' career than any coach he's ever been around. Am I wrong? Think of it. Did Lincoln Riley help him? Yeah. Has Sirianni helped him? Yeah. Nick Saban, has he helped him? After the fact. He's a Monday morning quarterback. Nick Saban has done more harm to Jalen Hurts' career than any head coach in the last 6 years of his career. When he came out of college, everybody in Philly's going like this. Isn't here? Tone, right? Everyone. Didn't you say this? Isn't that the guy who got fired for Tagovailoa? He's a second-round pick in Philly. We drafted a guy who got fired and had to go to the shitty Big 12. I mean, like, Big 12 quarterbacks outside of Mahomes. Big 12 quarterbacks. Kyler Murray? That guy, and he don't need anybody throwing him kisses. Okay? Yeah, it's another sign that Jalen Hurts is his own dude. You overcame Nick Saban's bullshit. Kudos to you, dude. And now Nick's like, well, we knew that, he had all the intangibles. No, you didn't. You didn't see the intangibles, or you would have kept him in that starter. All Saban is that he saw that he lost in the championship game to Deshaun Watson. That's all he saw. He didn't see the intangibles. You don't think Nick Saban ever saw the intangibles in Jalen Hurts, do you? Because he never used them. At least the Eagles are using them. Shit, the Eagles are paying him for it. Think of that. The Eagles saw more in Jalen Hurts than what Alabama did. So you let the second place finisher in a very close MVP race leave Alabama. And you could make the argument that Jalen Hurts is the best Alabama quarterback since Stabler and Namath. Right? That's the 60s. Jalen Hurts could be the third best quarterback. Some are going to go like this, Bryce Young. Yeah, well, I want to see Bryce Young get through a season first, not getting destroyed. That's a little dude. I don't know. Okay? I don't know. We'll see. 5'10", 180? I don't know. Shit, the Eagle kicker is bigger. Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback Alabama's had since Namath and Stabler. And they fired him. And Nick's now like, hey, he was really just a quality kid when he was here. Yeah, well, it's funny after the fact. That's easy to say. Well, we knew it all the time. It's like Ryan Day trying to take credit for Joe Burrow. When Joe Burrow and Urban Meyer both fired him. Nah, we're getting Justin Fields up here from Georgia. You got to go. Okay, I'll go win a national title and a Heisman somewhere else. And he did. and he did. And now, hey, he quarterbacked at Ohio State. Yeah, for about 6 plays. That's funny shit, man. Jalen Hurts, man, I tell you, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, have I ever seen a guy with that kind of presence not have to say anything? And yet I've never seen a guy who doesn't talk about his own ability or himself, and yet everyone else does. It's why his legend's growing. I've never heard him say anything about how good he thinks he is, what he's done, who he is. I've never heard anything out of him. And every quarterback's got a massive ego. Shit, man, when he got his money, his $255 million, he seemed embarrassed. Death Row goes, Bryce Young's going to be running for his life. He will have sack syndrome. You think so? He'll start seeing them Sam Darnold ghosts. Right? My friend Jason Cole, Hall of Fame voter from Yahoo Sports, is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. And we'll get a little bit of that. Last week of exhibition football. By the way, how many of the starters and how many of the frontline guys do I want to see? Just randomly off the top of my head in Thursday's game against the Colts. I want to see Marcus Mariota play the first half. Tanner McKey take the second half. Throw Book in there, whatever. I want to see Gainwell in Boston probably play. I don't want to see any starting offensive linemen. I might not even want to see Steen. Okay? Because he's going to be my depth. I maybe Steen, Kelly, Driscoll, some of them guys, sure. I want to see Quez, Gary Ward, whomever. And why they're going to look terrible Thursday night, but that's okay. You got to look through it a little bit. You're kind of looking for you're looking for the last 2 dudes for your roster. So don't really look at the game. It's going to be a shitty game. Colts are going to run them off the field, but it's not going to matter. They're looking for 2 players, 2 or 3 players max. When you got a roster like the Eagles have right now, you're not like the Houston Texans looking for 15 guys in the final exhibition game. They're looking for like 15 to 20 guys. The Eagles are looking for 2. You know what I mean? I mean, there's not a lot of roster stuff there. Do I want to see Zach Cunningham play? I guess, because I think he's a starter next to Nakobe. I would start him. Do I want to see some of Nolan Smith? He got banged up last week. Maybe not. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis? Maybe a series. Do I want to see Dean? Too late now. It's too late for Nakobe Dean. No way. Why would I play him in the last exhibition game? I'm not doing that. That's my Mike. I don't think so. Maybe you put him in for a series. I don't know. It's too late now. This thing's set. You're going forward with him. You're married to that guy. You're going to sink or swim with him in New England now. It's too late. Okay? You've done everything you can do. You went through the entire exhibition season, the entire offseason, with a guy who got one series in exhibition football and played 34 downs last year. That's what you're going with your Mike linebacker into New England with, against Bill Belichick and O'Brien, who have won Super Bowls and are great coordinators. Okay. That's what your table is set with. The Kobe Dean at Mike, with all of your great wishes and hopes and dreams and blowing of kisses and everything. That's all you have. There's no more here. That's what it is. Maniac goes, Sills, I think you need a 5-hour show. 3 hours goes too quickly. So my wife says 3 minutes goes too quickly. Thank you, Maniac. Good night. Try to veal. Jason goes, you're fine. Doesn't matter what I think now. We're going to go play some ball here. Hey, by the way, it doesn't matter what I think any longer. We're going to tee it up. We're going to find out if he can play 60. We're going to find out if he can play 65 plays. I don't know if he can play 65 plays yet. He hasn't. We're going to see. That thing's coming, baby. Sills needs a hug. Yeah, probably. I need a hug every day. But I don't really like anybody touching me. I got a bitch with Jason Cole. Steve McMichael does not belong as a finalist to be put into Pro Football Hall of Fame. You're lessening the Hall of Fame. If Eric Allen can't get into Hall of Fame, how do you put a guy with 2 Pro Bowls in? Dude, Javon Hargrave has 2 Pro Bowls. I mean, McMichael's sick. He's got leukemia. What in the world does that have to do with pushing him into a place that he doesn't deserve? Those are 2 different conversations. The league not taking care of him, which they should, and whether he's a gold jacket guy is another conversation. I can separate it. There's empathy and sympathy for his illness, for sure. I know Mongo. I patterned my game after him when he was at Texas. But Hall of Famer, Jerome Brown's got more. You're lowering the standards. I'm going to tell Jason Cole that. That's a senior committee bullshit. Okay? I mean, when did Dan Hampton go in? I think Hampton went in the early 2000s, maybe. I think 2000s. I think Dan Hampton went in. Dan Hampton, I think, is an 8-time, 9-time Pro Bowler. I mean, he was a signature dude on that D-line. Shit, I would say this. Wilbur Marshall was a better player than McMichael. I mean, Wilbur Marshall was a better. Dave Durson, who you guys saw in Philly, I thought Dave was an ass kicker on that defense. I mean, he was an ass kicker on that defense, Dave Durson. God rest his soul. Okay? Bears were loaded. Yeah, I mean, Dent and Hampton on that line were fantastic. Singletary in the middle. You had Rivera, and you had Ron Rivera, and you had the other guy there too, who was there forever. Wilbur Marshall was there. You had those guys, Plank and Fensick and Durson. Those guys were in the same. It was a great defense. I tell you what, though, between that defense and Gang Green, those were the two best defenses that I've ever seen. Now, you could make the argument with the Ravens in 2000. Here are the best defenses I've ever seen. That 84 49er team was really great. Okay? The Gang Green was special. The Gang Green was better than your defense a year ago. Okay? Gang Green was better than that team a year ago. You know why? Do you actually think that Josh Sweat is better than Clyde Simmons? Do you think Fletcher's better than Jerome? Do you think Jordan Davis? Do you think Brandon Graham's better than Reggie? Did you think TJ Edwards is better than Seth? Did you think any of those defensive backs were better than Wes Hopkins? I don't know. I mean, the team was the Bucks defense was good. They had a really good unit. One of them Patriot teams, I think the 01 team may have been their best defensive football team. They had Richard Seymour on that thing. That was a good group. In the last 5 years, I think that defense in San Francisco is pretty good, but not like any of those things there. The Tampa defense at 79 was great with Leroy. They had a bunch of great players on that team. Okay. Dan, do you like the way football is set up for picking the number one player? Because it's not legal. And that's why the NBA has a lottery, because it's legal. The NFL's draft is not legal. You can't tell a player where to work, but they do. And they set the table. You have to go to the worst organization in football. That's how it's set up. But what it does is it creates parity in the league. Okay? It creates parity. And when you have that, and you have the parity in the league like that, it's what keeps everything honest. That's why you see new playoff teams every year. The NFL is not worried about the top echelon teams like the NBA is. The NBA is worried about the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Celtics. Don't give a shit about anyone else. The NFL cares about the Cardinals, the Jags, the lesser teams, because they're only strong as the weakest link that they have. That's how they look at it. So, do I like the way it'll always be set up that way, because the NFL, and Tone and I were talking about this. The NFL, the players union is the worst on the planet. Ben, when Ben says that the Cardinals are like the worst organization, well, there's a potential that they could have the first and second picks in the draft in April. So I'm really looking forward to that. I really am. Man, I got to tell you something here. I've been looking forward to talking to Jason Cole today. I want to talk to him, obviously, about some of the news in the NFL. And for the record, Jason Cole is not on the senior committee. He's on the players of today. And I said this, before I bring him on, I want to set it up. Man, I'll tell you what, that senior committee is diminishing the National Football League or the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'll tell you why. Steve McMichael's sick. I get it. I love Mongo. He is not a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Roger Brown has 6 Pro Bowls, was on Fearsome Foursome, was one of the greatest defensive tackles in the history of the league, and he's not in. What we're trying to do is, there's 2 parts of this. There's a sympathy for Steve, and I'm with the empathy on that. I love the guy. But then there's also respecting what that room is and that building is. Let's bring my friend Jason Cole in. And Jason, I appreciate you coming aboard. Let's bring him up here, Tone, if we can, please. Let's get Jason in here. Hopefully we can bring him up here. Tony, we having some issues? There we go.
Okay. I'm on board.
You are?
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm with you. I think, right? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Jace, what I said, though.
I heard you. I heard, look, you're not wrong. I haven't, like, with the three guys who came out today, Gradishar, McMichael, and Powell, I haven't researched to them enough to say, yeah, you're right or you're wrong or anything like that, right?
I
Or
get
they both.
Randy.
Yeah, I know. I get, look, I get, what I do is I'm not part of that committee. I do eventually have to vote on these three guys. And just like last week when Buddy Parker came out as the contributor candidate, I'm going to vote on Buddy Parker, right? And I started thinking about Buddy Parker last week.
Do vote on these guys in the end.
Yeah, right. At the end, in January, when we get together, or February, whatever the date is, it'll be January. So in January, we'll get together, and these guys will be presented to the larger board. What they've done is there's a group of 12 people who get together and determine out of all the candidates, who are they going to bring to us?
Rick
right?
Gosselin and them guys.
Well, I don't even know if it's Goose is on this committee or not. He has been. I know that. There's 12 people. They rotate around.
Okay.
And I've talked to some of them, but it changes from year to year. I've never been on one of those committees, but that's fine. But they brought these three guys today as the senior representatives. My biggest problem is, like, we're bringing too many people in. We have nearly as many guys on the senior process who have already been argued over as we will eventually vote on. We have three. We're eventually going to turn the list of modern people down to 5. We're going to have those 5, probably 5 will make it, plus 3. They'll probably all make it. Buddy Parker, I don't know if he'll make it, but if he does, you have a chance that you're going to put 9 guys in the Hall of Fame again this year. And there's a point at which you're devaluing the honor, right? That's what I look. This is supposed to be Hall of Fame. And I get it. It's really, really hard to define. And there are people who disagree with you on McMichael and believe that McMichael belongs in. And that's fine. They can have their opinion. I don't know if I share it. I don't know yes or no yet where I am on McMichael or any of these guys. But the fact of the matter is, we just have so many guys we're putting in now. And I just think it's too much. And I've said that in the meeting.
I'll say this to you, too. So a modern day voter is going to go back and try to change the vote of Paul Zimmerman. And you're going to sit there and go like this. Paul Zimmerman, Dr. Z, was a guy who really, like you, revered the time, the era. How about the sports writers that you're doing this to, too? People that came before you, you're trying to change and revisit history. Now, Jason, I would say this. Was racism a part of that? I think you got to kind of take that into consideration on the vote. I get all that.
I mean, it's not even just racism. There used to be an infighting between the writers who covered the NFL and the guys who covered the AFL because there were arguments about, and that's not even about race. That's just like
territorial wars.
Right. It's, that league was inferior to this league. And it's like, come on, like, you should have gotten over yourself a long time ago, but that existed. So it's even more minute than racism. There is racism. I'll agree with that, but there's just a territorial pissings that was going on, which is stupid. Okay. That existed. I think, we've solved a lot of it over time. Are we going to fix it completely? No, that's always going to be in the eye of the beholder. But when we start putting 3 guys in every year on the senior committee, and I hear the argument from certain guys, oh, I've got a list of 50 guys who belong in the Hall of Fame. According to who? According to you? I don't agree. And B, why are we rewriting history? Why are we rewriting the opinions, as you say, of the writers who came before? Like Buddy Parker is the greatest example researched. Buddy Parker had plenty of chances to get into the Hall of Fame. He's been on the ballot 4 times. He also was, could have been eligible for the ballot 15 or 20 times. The writers of that time who covered Buddy Parker, who knew his work, said no. Now all of a sudden I'm supposed to put Buddy Parker in, and I never saw the man's work. I mean, I can look it up, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, I'm like, so Dick Young and Paul Zimmerman and all them guys from back in the day who are legendary sports writers that covered the game, revered the game, looked at the top guys. Like you said, are there 50 guys walking the earth right now that belong in Pro Football's Hall of Fame?
Among the old, this is just among the old timers.
Among the older guys?
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I mean, there might be five.
Yeah. Look, I'll go back to this. And people don't want to hear that because, you get old people who are like, oh, the league was so much better in the 70s or it was so much better in the 80s. Hey, look, the NFL, up until it merged with the AFL, was either a 10, a 12, or a 14-team league. It was roughly a third of the size that it currently is. Okay, you cannot, and with 40-man rosters, you cannot tell me that the NFL of that time was superior to a league that now has 32 teams, okay, and phenomenal athletes. We can argue about accomplishments all we want, but it was a small, very tiny league back then.
And no movement.
With about 400 players. Yeah, and absolutely no movement.
So, I mean, to me, today, to keep a team together and build a team and be consecutive, and you can't do what the Dolphins did back in the 70s. They may have been able to keep continuity together, and that's why those teams look good. But today, to try to keep continuity together, it's completely impossible. I think it's harder to be a GM today and a head coach today in the NFL than it's ever been.
Yeah, it's just, the rules are rougher. It's built to keep teams equal, because equal means better competition.
Let me throw this at you about Jim Irsay, and I'm not going to go knee deep in on him, but I want to ask you this about Peyton Manning. Isn't it funny how Peyton Manning today, and I said this about Tony Dungy. I said this about Peyton and Dungy, that I think that they underachieved in Indianapolis, only winning one.
Yeah.
I'm going to revise that. I'm going to revise that by saying this. It's funny how Peyton Manning identifies himself as a Bronco and not a Colt, and even though he had all the success, the way he was handled at the end probably rubbed him the wrong way, and he enjoys himself more in Denver. With all that being said, Jace, this guy is a whack job in Indianapolis, man. I mean, why are you 10 days before the start of the season alienating your top offensive player? I just don't get why that there is so much.
Well, are you alienating, or are you giving him the opportunity to go out and try and get what he wants?
Or are you doing this? Are you setting up because he knows that the contract's up at the end of the year? Go out and find out how much you're worth right now, because they're going to come back and say no one's going to give a one-up for you, and you're going to get tagged with 10-1. Maybe he's setting up the contract negotiations with Chris Ballard for next year already, because they know that contract talk's coming.
Right. Well, look, part of the way that you deal with players at times, and any employee, any really highly valuable employee, it doesn't matter what business it is. Sometimes you say, okay, you want more money, you want this, you want that. Go find out what your value is. And either we'll match it, we'll give it to you, or we'll figure something out that's fair, but we'll give you the freedom to find out. And he's doing that with Jonathan Taylor. It looks odd. I get that. And, Jim's an odd guy. There's no question about that. And
why did you do this, Jason, in February?
Because the kid, you thought you could get something done with the kid, and you weren't ready. And now it's to your advantage to do it later because the market is smaller. But you're acquiescing to his demands at this point in time. I get it. It's irregular. But if you're going to tell me that Jim Irsay is one of the worst owners in the NFL, it's weird. I got a pretty good list of weird. If you know what I'm saying. I do. It's weird. It's just 10 days before the start of the season, you're talking shit on your top player, and I'm like, what's the point of that? It's not. Look, it's not a healthy situation, but he's probably trying to make the best of an unhealthy situation by letting the kid, go out and find out what you're worth. And if we can get something for you, great. If you don't get what you want, then we can work out on the parameters of a deal.
Let me ask you, before I throw in my actual question to you, how good do you think the Rams are going to be this year? 5 wins? 6 wins?
Well, I don't think that division is overwhelming. Like Arizona's no good, right? I think Seattle's, I mean, the 49ers are legit, but you don't know what the quarterback looks like. So they could climb into 8 or 9 wins if things go right.
You think they're a Super Bowl contender?
No, I don't think they're a Super Bowl. They're not deep. They've got a few stars left. This would be a team that, like they've already started the teardown with Jalen Ramsey. They'll probably do it with Aaron Donald, if depending on how things go, and maybe with Cooper Kupp. I doubt Cooper Kupp because he's more of a local icon, but they could tear this thing down.
Well, I said this. What's the point of having a $30 million a year defensive tackle who's 32 talking retirement and not to get something for him and get his number off the books? Send him somewhere. You don't have first-round picks for another 2 years because of the whole Stafford deal. Maybe you trade him somewhere to a contender, or you trade him to a team that's got assets. Is that off the table, Jason, you think, this year, if they get out to a shitty start?
No, I think it's definitely on the table, but you also have to have desperation play out. Right now, nobody out there is desperate. So you can have that idea in the back of your head that you want to trade Aaron Donald. Now is not the moment to do it.
And who has the cap space for that today?
Hey, who's got the cap space?
Yeah.
But more importantly, if there's a team out there that's really good and needs somebody, and we're getting to the halfway point, we need something in the middle of our defense to short up. Like when Indianapolis went and got Booger McFarland in their Super Bowl year. They paid what, a 2nd-round pick for him, which was a lot. For Booger at that point.
From the Bucks.
Good player, not anything like Aaron Donald, okay? Yeah, you could get it. You might, as teams get more desperate, and they're starting to win, or they get a key injury and they're thinking they're going to win. You wait for them to get more desperate. They're not quite desperate now, which goes back to Jonathan Taylor. Teams aren't desperate right now. They have their plan. They don't think they need a running back just yet. Teams don't think they need Aaron Donald just yet.
Do you think the Bucks could be in that position too, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Devin White and guys like that? You're looking for a quarterback in next April's draft, and you kind of pushed all your chips in with Brady, same as the Rams. And look, I tell you what, I've always said this too, Jace. I'll take 3 shitty years of football if I have to for a Lombardi Trophy, and that's kind of what they did. But now they've got to get back to getting on the tracks again.
Right, because I think it's longer than 3 bad years.
Yeah.
You're in year 2.
It feels longer.
Right. And you're in year 2 because you're going to be tearing down, you're going to be bad next year. And then you might get the chance for the quarterback then. And now you have to build up.
Yeah.
So the process is really more like 5 or 6 years if everything goes right. Or it could be 30 years if you're Detroit, right? Or 50 years if you're Detroit, right? You can screw this up a lot of ways, but you did win a Super Bowl. And if the owner said that that's how he wanted to run it, and the owner said, just go get me a Super Bowl, you accomplished what the owner wanted. You did what you were supposed to do. You followed your plan. And the falling action from that is tough. I mean, Tampa Bay post Gruden, right? They traded all those picks to go get Gruden. And what did they go through?
9 and 7.
Oh, it was a parade of mediocrity. Right. Until they finally got
Charlie
off the
Gardners of the world, guys like that.
Right. You were bad for how many years was it between titles? They won in 2020, and then they had won the previous one. And it was 20 years between titles for them.
Yeah.
That's fairly normal, when you really think about it.
Let me ask, I got 2 more questions for you. Let me ask you this one here. Explain this to me. The 49ers have a Super Bowl roster. Everything's set. Why are they still experimenting with Trey Lance?
They named Darnold
they're experimenting with a suit. You're now take the potential. You're running out of time.
Look, my thing with Trey Lance, he's not the starter, and they named Darnold the number 2 today, right? So Brock Purdy's the 1, Darnold's the 2. Trey Lance, if they keep him around, is the 3. I don't blame them because that's a sunk cost. They owe him. They're going to pay him $31 million for 4 years, no matter what.
Wow.
And but look, that's just the price of playing poker.
I get it.
Right. But look, there's enough athletic ability in Trey Lance that you wonder, okay, when will it click? Like the last preseason game, he actually looked pretty decent on some throws. Now, I just said pretty decent. Like, okay, there's something there. But I'll also say this. If you're telling me Sam Darnold's your number 2, I better know who the number 3 is. Right? Like Sam Darnold ain't killing it for me. That's so how do
you feel going in? If you're the 49ers and the 49er fan base, you feel good going in with Purdy and Sam Darnold as your 1 and 2?
I like Purdy a lot for what he is, but yeah, I got questions about him. Sam Darnold, look, if
I know,
like Sam Darnold,
Casper the Ghost.
Well, he's a big brain dead heaver. I mean, okay, he's your typical.
See, that's the USC hater in you coming out.
No, that's not about USC. I can give plenty of hate to USC. The kid's just a big dummy. He's talented, but he's just kind of a big dummy. And it's not about being intellectual, but the ghost comment told you a lot about how he doesn't see the game as fast as you need to see it. And there's a lot of guys like that. But he can throw a ball. I mean, I've been out there to practice, and I've seen him up close and personal. That guy can wing it.
He can.
Okay, go ahead.
Final question for you here. The second time around for Pete Carroll, has your opinion changed on him to put him in a conversation with Shanahan and Holmgren when his time comes up? That he's a Hall of Fame coach, having won championships at both levels. Not that you get credit in the NFL, not that you get credit in the NFL for what you did in college, but he's a different coach the second time around than he was with the Jets and the Patriots. Look what he did with Geno Smith. I mean, he turned Geno Smith's career around.
That's not enough to get in the Hall of Fame.
But the winning is.
The winning is. I think Pete is close. I'd have to look at the career numbers on wins and losses and things like that. And I think some of the achievements on defense, like he built a defense, which I think is really inventive from the back to front, right? Rather than most defenses are built from front to back. Like the Chicago Bears, the front 7, like you and I could have played safety on the Bears, right? and made a lot of tackles, right? Doug Plank and Gary Fensick, really smart players and stuff like that. Not exactly, like the greatest athletes in the world, right? And I don't mean that as an insult because they were real smart, but they just ran around, cleaned up whatever was left from them. That's a classic way to build a defense. The Baltimore Ravens.
No guy from Yale's on my defense. Just keep it that in your back.
Hey, be careful here.
Nobody with brains like you and no Stanford and Yale and Cal guys.
Yeah, you wouldn't have taken John Elway. Yeah, right, exactly. Or Jim Plunkett. Yeah,
John Elway did not go to Stanford because of brains.
Talk.
John Elway went to Stanford because his old man was there.
Hush yourself. That's all I gotta say to you.
Just
hush.
There.
Just hush. Just hush. Elway's dad wasn't there. His dad came afterwards.
Sorry.
Elway's dad came after John.
Oh.
Okay? That's at Stanford. So get that right.
You know how his old man got the job.
Yeah. I know how you.
Hey,
I know how you got to Miami.
He promised to go to Stanford.
All I know is I know how you got to Miami. And it was a long line of green dollar bills, pal. Okay, that's all I know.
Have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, man. Exactly. All right.
Hey,
so anyways,
I have no idea who Doc Santinella is. I don't know
right.
Who he
exactly.
was.
I don't know how that Trans Am got in my house. I just don't know that.
No. You got the wrong thing. I had a Corvette.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to downgrade you into. I didn't want to talk about you.
What
like
do you think,
you're
I'm Eric
playing
Dickerson?
in Texas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm not Eric Dickerson. I had a vet.
I had a vet. I rank higher than Eric Dickerson. That's a classic.
Well, I got Eric Dickerson goes, I got a Trans Am to go to SMU. I went, I got a brand new Corvette to go to Miami.
A trans A&M. That's what my favorite one is, right?
Jace, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. Be good.
You got it. That is my friend, Hall of Fame voter, and our good friend with Yahoo Sports, Jason Cole. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Hey, Turner, let me hit a home run. More kisses. Hey, if that makes him feel good, all the Philly people, throw kisses to Trey Turner. If it makes him feel good and he's hitting, okay, I mean, you know. Hey, whatever works, I guess. That's what they do in Philly now. Instead of throwing batteries, they throw love kisses to Trey Turner. We don't throw batteries anymore. We're trying to change our image. We throw kisses. Yeah. Hey, yeah. There you go, Scott. Hey, can you do me a favor, Philly sports fan? Can you start throwing some kisses to Marcus Mariota? I mean, shit. Don't you think we could use that juju over on that guy? Please. I'm gonna tweet this out even. I'm gonna beg Eagle fans, since you're throwing love rainbow kisses out to Trey Turner, maybe you should throw some love kisses out to Marcus Mariota so that he plays better Thursday night in the first half. Hey, Marcus, this is for you. It worked for Trey Turner. We're just trying to get the reverse juju on you, man. Quan goes like this. It's called X now. I call things, hey, Quan, don't you know shit by now about Big Sills? I see things through the Big Sills kaleidoscope, not yours. Yeah. I don't see the world like you guys do. That team in Washington's still the Redskins to me. Okay, you can call it Commanders, and I do it because it makes you guys feel good. Okay, so I mean, that's what I am. Because you can't, most people today, again, too, I get the name. It's kind of a shitty name. Should be changed. I'm there. I'm all right. But I mean, the Commanders and Cowboys, boy, I tell you, that rivalry still going strong. Shit, the rivalry helped the Eagles and Cowboys more, in my opinion. That's a rivalry. Cowboys and Giants. Okay? Now you can't leave. I see things through my kaleidoscope, Quan. So Philly fans are now putting up with the guy who throws a temper tantrum and Harden this week. So you guys have to look at the babysitters you are now. You're babysitting Harden and Trey Turner. Solid. 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 Still calls them Dotsons. They're not around anymore? Sorry, dude. I don't really look at car brands and shit like that. It's not my deal. I don't care about that shit. I've owned every car there is except a Ferrari. Okay? Don't go to basketball. Don't worry, Scott. Why would I go there? It's boring. And why would I talk about the Sixers? The kings of one and done. The Sixers are the Cowboys of the NBA. Since Iverson. Playoffs. Week 3. NFL. Thursday. Pittsburgh, Atlanta. Don't start Kenny Pickett. I might start that Desmond Ridder kid. Indy, Philly. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Friday, Detroit, Carolina. Man, I do not. I tell you this. I feel better today about CJ Stroud than I do about Bryce Young. I don't know why. I see CJ Stroud. He don't look bad. Had a shitty throw in the last game for a pick. But, I mean, he looks the part. I look at Bryce Young. He looks like a weeble. Just walking around. He looks like a tiny dude, man. New England, you're not going to see anything. You will see the most. You know what? I'd be shocked if New England even gets off the bus and puts anything up because they're getting ready for Philly. They're already game planning for Philly. They're already game planning, you guys. They probably got scouts at the game already. I wouldn't doubt if they got people in the media booth because that's what New England does. They'll be scouting that game on Thursday night. Vice versa, too. Nothing crazy there. Chargers in San Francisco. San Francisco still going through the motions like they're just doesn't make sense. Why are you experimenting? They're going to get this. So the 49ers have named Sam Darnold the backup today. Damn. If Jalen goes out, just count those losses because we're not winning one game with Mariota. You're not winning a game with anybody else in the league as a backup either, though. Hey, but you know what, too, Death Row? What will Kansas City look like? What will Kansas City look like if Mahomes goes down? Could they be a team that has the 5th pick in the draft? If Kansas City loses Mahomes, they could get the 1st pick in the draft. Right? Buffalo, Chicago. I don't want to see anything in that thing. Arizona, what a terrible roster. Minnesota, they're not going to play any frontline guys. They're going to probably try to see what they can get out of that running back position. Kansas City, you're not going to see nothing. Cleveland, you're probably not going to see anything. You might see Deshaun for a series. Seattle, Green Bay, I heard they're going to play Love a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is actually playing Saturday. Jets, Giants. Cincinnati, Washington, they're not going to do anything. Baltimore's not doing anything. The Bucs will probably start Baker Mayfield. Miami, Jacksonville, that'll be nothing. Rams and Dallas. Dallas is not going to put anything out there. Raiders and Broncos, probably nothing there. I don't think you'll see Russell Wilson. Then Sunday, Houston and New Orleans. So, guys, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Please hit the like button. We so appreciate you guys coming aboard. Thank you very much. Xander, Big Joe, we thank you. Tone, keep kicking ass. We thank you so much. Tomorrow, 3 to 6. We'll catch you on the flip side.